All right, ladies and gentlemen, to commemorate the new gear room, the new organized gear room, I'm going to give you a review on a rifle. Specifically, an AR-15, or an M4, as we called it in the military. This specific review, we're going to talk about how I set my M4 rifle up, and then talk a little bit about this specific rifle, which is made by LWRC. I really like this gun. I'm having a blast with this gun. Now, the LWRC is a little higher end gun than something like this. This is a Colt M4, which is also a great gun. And if you can see, these weapons are set up almost identically. But this weapon has a lot of features that this one doesn't have out of the box. And we're going to talk through those things. Why should you listen to me about a rifle like this? Well, I carried one of these rifles in the SEAL teams. I've shot, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of rounds out of this weapons platform. I know it front to back, inside and out. And I am also a Naval Special Warfare armorer. So I'm an armorer, kind of like a gunsmith. But I went through a class, a long class, about a month and a half long in Crane, Indiana, where we did a lot of work on this weapons platform. So this is like my tool, man. This is like a carpenter has a hammer. Well, this is like my hammer. All right. So that's why I am qualified to talk to you about this weapons platform. Let's talk about setup real quick. First of all, we'll start at the top. How do I have this weapon set up? The first thing you're probably going to notice is this. This is a vertical foregrip. I really like this one. This is made by Magpul, MVG. It's not super long. If you can tell, this Tango down foregrip on the Colt has got a lot more length to it. Really don't need that. This foregrip is very comfy. Flashlight. A flashlight is essential on all your weapons, in my opinion. This is made by Enforce. It's a great little light. It's like 130 bucks, man. So, great light. You can get better. You can get a lot better. But this one seems to be holding up well for me after a few months of use. Moving back on the weapon, this is pretty important. This is the sight, all right? So on this M4 platform, along with the Colt, I run this Vortex UH1. This is a holographic sight. In the SEAL teams, we ran a sight called EOTech. This is Vortex's version, improved version, in my opinion, of EOTech. This has been a solid sight. It looks great on the gun, in my opinion. The reticle is extremely crisp, and it's worked well for me across the spectrum of all lighting conditions. So you can dial it up or down, the brightness, depending on how sunny or how dark it gets outside. Battery life is great. It's super easy to sight in and zero. And it is my preferred holographic sight. Shooting with this sight, I can accurately shoot with this sight out to probably 300 meters. All right, so there's no magnification, but the reticle is so crisp, it doesn't blur the target out even at distance. Moving back from there, you'll see these. These are iron sights, all right? So we always want to have backup iron sights on our M4 platform because this optic runs off of batteries. If this thing runs out of batteries, it doesn't work anymore. And I still need to be able to shoot my weapon. That's what the iron sights are all about. Even if we had an optic or a magnified scope on this weapon, which is a great option for an M4, a 1 to 4 power scope, if that scope gets knocked off and it doesn't hold zero, or the lens gets busted, or whatever may happen, you always want to have those iron sights as backup. These, I think, yeah, these are made by Magpul. These are offset. If you can see, these sights are offset from the actual holographic sight that I have on here, the Vortex UH1. I went with these offset sights. These are all metal, by the way. I prefer an iron sight to be all metal. I don't like polymer iron sights. They're just not going to freaking hold up, man. A polymer iron sight is just not going to hold up if you were actually using this weapon. I like the offset sights because if I did want to put a 1 to 4 power scope on this weapon, these sights are going to be able to stay in place and they're not going to get in the way of the scope. So that's pretty much how we set our weapon up. It's pretty simple. You can add so much to these M4 rifles. People get carried away with it. Look, get a good set of iron sights, all metal. A good vertical foregrip. Halfway decent flashlight. A good optic, all right? Don't go cheap on your optic. Your optic should cost as much, if not more, than your actual gun. And you're pretty much set, dude. That's really all you need to add to this thing other than a sling. We'll talk about this LWRC just briefly. Why I like this. Why this. What makes this a higher end weapon. First of all, the buttstock. We've got storage in the buttstock where I can store extra batteries. It's got a nice cheek piece right here. So you can get your cheek down flat. It's nice and comfy. Versus the old standard buttstock you see on the Colt right there. So that's an upgrade. We've got an ambidextrous charging handle here. As you can see, we have a catch on both sides of that charging handle. That's awesome. As a matter of fact, everything on this weapon is ambidextrous. That is not normal. That's what you get with a higher end rifle. This grip right here is amazing. It's textured. It's sticky. It fits my hand well. I really love it. You've kind of got this flared piece down here on the trigger guard. If you've got gloves on, you got a little extra room to get your finger in there to pull the trigger. Again, ambidextrous safety. The safety's nice and crisp. Super tight. No play in it. We've got ambidextrous mag release. We have got a ambidextrous bolt release here and here on both sides. So that's pretty awesome. Other than that, I love this M-LOK rail they have, and I love how they just molded it in to the upper receiver. You see how clean that is, man? There's no edges. It just looks so clean, man, and it carries so clean. You know, and that is in comparison to the old Colt. You guys see the difference there. This is just a much sleeker design. Looks great, feels great, carries great. This weapon also, this LWRC also has a fluted barrel. All right, spiral flute, which that saves on weight. That's really about all that does. When you break into this gun and you start to look at the components on the inside, the bolt carrier group, the trigger components, you really will see a big upgrade in quality and craftsmanship between this weapon, which I think was around $1,500, versus your kind of lower end M4, or your mid-range M4, not lower end. That's going to be around $1,000. So for $500, it's worth the extra for me. One thing I really look for in all M4s is I always want to make sure that the castle nut, this is called the castle nut, I always want to make sure it's staked in. All right. On your lower end guns, these castle nuts will not be staked in. That's just a sign of attention to detail, and it also has a function. Another thing about this LWRC, we've got quick release attachments right here for your sling here on the buttstock, and also here built into this M-LOK rail. So I don't have to do anything else to this thing to be able to put a dual point sling and carry this weapon. All right, now if I wanted to run a single point, I would have to change out that back plate right there and have a single point sling attachment, which you can see I had to do on the Colt. I do have a single point sling attachment on the Colt. But with this one, I really like those two QD mounts right there that I can clip my sling into. The weapon carries very nicely. And I'm super happy with this. This is probably the best shooting, best carrying, best looking M4 rifle that I've ever owned. This is a LWRC ICDI 5.56. Oh, that's the upper. The lower is a M6 IC LWRC. So that's my favorite rifle. That's how it's set up. This is what I would take to war. Yeah. So there's your rifle review. I think later on we can go more in depth and talk about actually how to break this weapon down, how to clean it, how to maintain it from the time you get it out of the box. I'll take it out. I just cleaned it up yesterday. I'll take it out to the range in the next few days. I'll shoot the crap out of it. And then I'll bring it back and show you how to clean it and maintain it. Because that's pretty important. These things will run pretty dirty, but if you don't keep them halfway clean and lubed up, they will start to get real sluggish and start to malfunction. So that's your initial class on the M4 or AR-15 rifle. By the way, AR does not stand for assault rifle, for all you guys that think it does. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know y'all been waiting for a while for a rifle review. That was kind of a high level. We'll dig more into this thing later on and talk through the intricacies of the weapon system. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Nuff said.